Yes. 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 Oh, so today is going to be a learning day. Seriously, I don't know how you drink tea without, especially when it's hot, without getting that slurp at first. It's one thing once it's cooled off, but when it's hot, how do you drink tea without slurping? It's hot. Slurping brings the air through, it cools it off just a little. So, how many of you know why it's 2025 AD? I think most of you don't. I think most of you think AD means after death. But it doesn't. Anno Domini means in the year of the Lord. Not our Lord, the Lord. AD is Anno Domini. Anno Domini. It's Italian shit. And the narrative behind it is a really fascinating one. Right? It's it's one of these just additions to the story, right? The additions to the case being built. I like to think that not only is this the court of public opinion, but I want to present my arguments as if I was in court. I don't like doing fantasy. I don't like focusing on theories. I have my own theories on things, and I have certain beliefs that require an amount of faith on my part, but that's because I don't have access to those higher levels of information. And the faith I have is based in truth and reality. I can point out pieces up until that point where I'm not allowed to go any further. Whereas with shit like religion, there's literally no proof. It's all based on piggybacking fantasy on top of fantasy on top of faith on top of faith. And that's how they rule us. That's how they control what we think. To control what we read and how it's read, basically. What we think and how we think it. And that's just again, that's a piece of the proof. If I was going to start a presentation to a court, a legal body or whatever, I would say, let me start off by proving my source and vetting the thing that I'm going to use for a lot of the information. Like, dude, meth people don't have this, right? Meth people are all sunk in and shit. You got to get your shit right. If you're going to talk shit, at least try to make it more accurate. I don't have the meth persona. I mean, say I'm doing heroin. Say I'm, I mean, I guess you can't say I'm drinking because you never see me drink, but something along those lines where it fits the personality more. Obviously, you've never seen someone on meth if you're going to compare me to someone on meth. I mean, I can do the same thing I'm doing, right? Provide information, provide proof for what you say and think. And so, as always, if I'm gonna make my arguments, I guess we always have to start with the most important one. Like I say, if I'm okay, Your Honor, first of all, I'd like to vet myself, right? I'd like to give myself a little bit of credit here and validate my information. So there's no questioning this. And the first thing I'm always going to show you is a video from 2010 distributed by the IsraelNationalNews.com website, where Naftali Bennett, who is currently a former prime minister, but at the time of the taping in 2010, look, nothing coming out of the plane. Huh, that's weird. Must be broken. Must be broken everywhere because there's no streaks anywhere. Nobody must be flying today, right? Is that what it is? Nobody's flying. Well, other than the couple of planes you saw go overhead. But nobody else is flying today. I guarantee you by the time I'm done, there is huge streaks running across the sky. Anyway, this video I'm going to show you is of Naftali Bennett, who in 2010 was just a high-ranking Israeli operative, just an agent. He hadn't reached his full potential yet, or at least he hadn't reached the higher heights yet. But he was, he was a very powerful. I mean, he was still powerful in 2010. He was still a high-ranking member of the Israeli brigade. In 2019, from 2019 to 2022, Israel had 6 prime ministers. Normally, when something like that is going on, especially in a place where it's so dependent on U.S. aid and all that, we would absolutely step in, and especially with the amount of corruption that was just so visible. I mean, it was just insane. But in 2019, it starts with Netanyahu. Then Benny Gantz wins. But then there's some election bullshit. So then Netanyahu is back in charge. And then this guy, who's I'm about to show you, Naftali Bennett, becomes prime minister from June of 2021 to June of 2022. Belgium, their elections are in November. So in June of 2022, he just steps down. Not really even sure. I'm sure you like Kid Sister, Oh Glory. But he steps down, and there's no anything to do. Like, it's like a prime minister just steps down and somebody else just takes over. That's how that works. Like that's not how things work. And uh, there wasn't uh, there wasn't any like big like election or hoopla about it, and there wasn't any reason given as to why he stepped down. He just stepped down. And then Yair Lapid took over as prime minister until November, when I mean it's almost like a coup, but it's it's an election. They completely corrupted the election by having the most openly supremacist, they called it conservative, uh, group of leaders that Israel had ever seen. Netanyahu was prime minister, and then he brought with him Bezalel Smotrich, Itmar Ben-Gvir, Avi Moaz, this coalition of openly supremacist Israeli leaders. Like it's not. This isn't a question. This isn't a theory. This was reported in many different circles. Because a lot of you have only been following this since October 7th of 2023, when the false flag took place and no Israelis were killed or taken hostage. So you don't have a very accurate perception on what's actually going on. But while you were distracted by what Kanye said, or supposedly said, they were putting in this coalition that can't be removed. Netanyahu cannot be removed through any sort of election or anything like that. It's not that way. They put him in a weird way. And this man was under indictment at the time. But Naftali Bennett is such an important piece that he was a part of this ruse. And remember, like, they ran on the platform that they were going to retake the Gaza Strip. What's happening right now, the genocide that's happening right now, was well planned in advance. It just happened to work out that the Palestinians, the Hamas, played the role necessary by doing this just ludicrous false flag. There we go. Here's another one. Nothing coming out of that plane. So when everybody claims or cries about anything Israel defending itself, yada yada yada, you clearly don't know anything about the story. You only know the Fox News narrative that you've been given since October 7th. But that's a different day, right? That's for a different day. So this is Naftali Bennett, right?
Moetzet Yesh, in conjunction with My Israel, has arranged Instruction Day for wiki editors. The goal of the day is to teach people how to edit in Wikipedia, which is the #1 source of information today in the world. As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to be the guys who influence what is written there, how it's written, and to ensure that it's balanced and Zionist in nature.
All right. So right off the bat, there's, Exhibit A, right? Your Honor, this is the 100% proof that Israel is my source of information. I'm going to read to you from what they want us to read. There's no crazy conspiracy theories. There's no Alex Jones this or that. It's all just, you know, it's all above the board. It's all what they want us to know. Not saying it's 100% true, but saying that you know, like I am reading the official account of things. And like I say, there's no Alex Jones bullshit involved. There's no anything. This is all just the way that they want us to think. So based on the way they want us to think, let's move forward, right? So we have Anno Domini. I'm going to read a bit of what I read yesterday. I'm not going to read everything I read yesterday. If you want to you want to see the first part, then go watch yesterday's video, right? The terms Anno Domini, AD, and before Christ, BC, are used when designating years in the Gregorian and Julian calendars. The term Anno Domini is medieval Latin and means in the year of our Lord, but is often presented using our Lord instead of the Lord. Taken from the full phrase Anno Domini Nostri Jesu Christi, which translates to in the year of our Lord, well, in the year of the Lord, Jesus Christ, I guess. I'm not really sure. Then you just say it means this, but then you just said presented as whatever. The form BC is specific to English, and equivalent abbreviations are used in other languages. The Latin form, rarely used in English, is Ante Christum Natum ACN or Ante Christum AC. Which, again, to me is like when you realize, like, there are so many variations to just the terminology that in 2025 we use, to think that the historical account is accurate is more of that arrogance, right? It's all based on arrogance. Starting in the year 000, year of our Lord. See, this is what I mean. This is why girls shouldn't talk about these things. This is why especially female Christians should adhere to 1 Timothy 2:12. Because 1 Timothy 2:12 says, I permit no woman to have any authority, to teach or have any authority over a man. She is to keep silent. When you say things like 0000, like right there, it just shows you just how insanely ignorant everyone is. Our whole calendar is based on the death of Jesus. So again, you think there's 0000, and then you think there's 1 AD, right? And that's what you think is after the death of Jesus. Never mind what's being said to you. You think it's after death. And then you think of 1 BC, -1, as before Christ. So Jesus existed for a year? Is that what you think? I'd love to know. You know, I'd love to know how you think. JTube strikes again. Oh, why does JTube keep sending me these streams? Well, I'm sure JTube doesn't want you watching me, because I think we should remove the J in society. Like I oppose the J cult more than anything. So, hello. What's up, Karen? How you doing? And the year of our Lord straighted 2025 years ago when they killed him. See, again, this is what she doesn't like literally, like, as much as I make fun of you on this, think about what you're saying. You think they killed him in 0000. Prior to 0000 is BC, so before Christ. And then 1 AD is the year, you think they killed him in 000. So when did he exist? He's supposed to have existed for at least 32 years, right? Wasn't he 32 when he was strewn up on the cross? I know he's 32 when he reappears. He disappears at 13. Like a good boy had his mitzvah, had his bar mitzvah. And then he reappears at like 32 or 33 or something like that, right? So just think about what you're saying. You disagree with me. You actually believe in this nonsense. But think about what you say you're believing. You believe they killed him in the 0, and then it's 1 AD after death and 1 BC before Christ. So when do you think he existed? Or does this like trigger the wheels to get turning that, hey, maybe you're being lied to? I doubt it. No year 0 is the year of his birth. You are actually just dumb, says your typical Christian who doesn't really understand things. And who apparently, again, your typical Christian, your turn the other cheek and put the olive branch out kind of Christian is going to immediately start name calling and saying stupid things because they know they're outmatched. This dumbass already knows they're outmatched. And so they have to start immediately going with that bullshit. Yeah, it's his birth, not death. No, it's not. See, look at what I'm saying. I always talk about how arrogance is the number one thing, which is, the main problem that we're dealing with, is average everyday person's arrogance and thinking that they're right about something that they literally know nothing about. It's not like these people have actually looked into any of this shit. They heard somebody at some point say something that they barely remember and they want it to fit in this particular narrative, so they're going to say it that way. So why are we in the year 2025 and we celebrate Christmas every year, Easter? We not Christians. Is that supposed to say if we not Christians? I mean, you understand that there are multiple holidays that are celebrated that aren't Christian holidays. You understand that just because the control scheme tells you something doesn't necessarily mean it's true. See, this is where, again, arrogance comes into play. Because I can almost guarantee there's not a real person on here that says they believe the Kennedy shooting narrative as it's told. You believe in magic bullets. You believe in impossible shooting, Oswald. You all the information that's available to show you that it's bullshit, that we've been lied to. That's all bullshit in favor of the next to nothing to prove the official narrative, right? You believe that? Let's see if anybody's going to be brave enough to say they believe it. I've stopped here all the time, heard this all before, yo. So you felt the need to come say something. But I believe in technology we've had for over 100 years. Whatever. You're joking, right? Right? You're joking, right? Like, this is how I try my best to actually have reasonable conversation, debate, but this is just the dumbest shit over and over and over again. And it's just so interesting to me how quick people are to say they're bullshit. But when you try to corner them, you try to get them to acknowledge something that ask a question, whatever, they fall apart. Right? If you really want to talk about submarines because you're just this huge submarine enthusiast, go watch parts 1 through 9. Submarines are not real, part 1 through 9. Otherwise, I don't know if you realize this, but this conversation is about something else. So for you to arrogantly, again, we have another arrogant white guy, come in here and be like, well, I know you're talking about this, but talk about that instead. It just, they do nothing but prove the point. Yeah, these giant meth blunts. Just, you know, I mean, you are doing it without saying it, but you would be so much better suited if you just came on here and said, listen, I'm stupid. I don't know anything about what you're talking about, but it's hurting my feelings, so I feel like I should react. So I'm going to react and say a bunch of dumb shit, pretending I know what I'm talking about, but you don't. Now see again, that goofy girl, Heather, just disappeared, didn't she? Right? What's your religion or lack of an ethnicity? Why would it matter? None of it matters. We're not talking about me. We're talking about a much bigger picture here. And I think if you just pay attention to the conversation, you'll probably figure it out. Oh, unfortunately, you're right. I am. I know I'm right. Thank you, though. Oh, we have a pedophile. NorCal is a pedophile. At this point, if you support Trump, then you probably are a pedophile. And you'd have a hard time convincing me you're not. Anyone that can overlook all of the pedophile stuff associated with Trump and still be like, yeah, he's doing his great job in ways I can't point to. Like, you're just trying to protect yourself there, I think. But like I say, you know, I asked a simple question and then nobody can answer it, right? Or I presented a simple argument that, you know, all of you on here, you don't believe the Kennedy narrative. You're not stupid enough to believe Oswald shot Kennedy all by himself, lone gunman. Never mind Jacob Rubinstein. Never mind all of the Mossad connections and the J connections and all that. Never mind all that stuff. Lone gunman, 3 shots in 8 seconds, 2 of which hit their target, 1 of which was the magic bullet that went through this, through that, through this, through that, and then somehow ended up on the gurney in pristine condition. It's just, it's such an insultingly stupid story. I really wish I could meet somebody that did believe it, right? Like, I'd love to meet anybody that can actually say, no, I believe the children are our future. I believe the Kennedy narrative, and this is why. Look, we have the guy who I flat out called a pedophile, didn't deny it. Just kept doubling down. Wasn't like, hey, fuck you, buddy. Don't say that shit about me. Fuck you. I think they should all die. Blah, blah. He didn't say that. He just doubles down. Because I'm right. Because the average Trump supporter has a search history they wouldn't want you to see. Has a file on their phone or on their computer at home. Some secret fucking file with all sorts of nasty videos and images in it. And maybe they convince themselves that they're not that bad because they don't actually, you know, fulfill the compulsion to actually touch a kid. They can control themselves in that regard. But they definitely, you know, there's a reason why child exploitation imagery is one of the, you know, #1 top businesses in all of the web, especially the dark web. People are making gazillions selling child exploitation imagery and child exploitation materials, and they're you know, you don't have the #1 thing or one of the top things because a small handful of people partake. It's a much larger section of the population than people realize. And the proof is in any one of the pedophile hunters that you can find. Any of them. Ask any of them, how many times does their profile get hit up? You know, they're you know, post a picture of a obviously young looking girl with a name like Skylar 2013. How many times does that profile get hit up? And every single one of them will tell you it's hundreds, if not thousands. And all they have to do is post it. And I don't care what anybody says. I really don't. I don't care what religious affiliation you have, you know, any of it. Like, unless you are like with the group, the well policed group, you know, protecttheteenagers.com or something like that. You have no business. Nobody that's out of their teens or can drive a car has any reason to be reaching out to a 12-year-old. You know, I was just saying, hey, what's up? I just wanted to see what. No, you're a piece of shit. There's no reason for an adult to be reaching out to a teenager that they don't know. I saw your picture and I saw your name. But they clicked 18. It says they were 18. They have to click 18 to be there, but we all know there's a difference between what 18-year-olds look like and what 12-year-olds look like. And you saw the date. You saw the name. You knew they were 12. But when you understand just how commonplace that thing is, that I mean, you just have to put it together, you know. If you look up in whatever neighborhood you live in, you look up the offender registry, you're going to see multiple houses on your own street. And you just have to understand that those are the people that have been caught. So the amount of people that are just trading images back and forth or videos or links back and forth, those people are everywhere, just everywhere. And those are the same people that are going to be capable of overlooking what Trump's done, you know, of supporting a guy who at the very, very least has covered up for pedophiles, has said some very suspect things, like when he was bragging about the fact that at 60 he could still bang 24-year-olds on Howard Stern. And Robin asked him, well, do you have a limit? And he said, no. Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to get caught fooling around with a 12-year-old. Like, what's his name? That isn't what you say to that response or to that comment. When you find out Ghislaine Maxwell is going to prison, you don't say things like, oh, well, I wish her well. I wish her well. And then there's just all of there's the Katie Johnson stuff. There's the just entire portfolio of Trump accusations, Trump payouts, Trump associations, you know, just the amount of shit. Like, for me, if you were to look into history, there's not going to be any history, right? And I'm sure anybody who isn't a pedo doesn't have a history, a checkered history. They, you know, there aren't any false accusations and all that because, you know, there was no reason for it. And for someone like me, for me, I don't care who you are. You could be my best friend, 30 years, you could be my kid. If I find out you have child exploitation materials on your phone or in your computer or whatever, I'm calling the police myself. There's no There is just none, no leeway whatsoever with any of that. Nothing. Like I don't even give details because the details are so fucked up. And the thing is, there's no, like, if you have to ask, then it's probably wrong. Well, what about if she's like 17 and I'm like 26? Yes, it's wrong. But she's legal. Why would you be attracted to a 16, 17-year-old? Once you can go to the bar, why would you be attracted to somebody who can't go to the bar with you? Who has age limitations on them? Like, that's just fucking weird. So to me, and I know this is a huge distraction, but to me, anyone who still supports Trump is someone that I am going to safely assume is a pedo until proven otherwise. So, back to AD, Anno Domini, which again is one of these weird things where, you know, the same trolls that are here when I'm talking about all different other subjects, they're here again trying to get me to stop doing what I'm doing. Like, you really do have an association with AD? You really have like an investment in AD, and that if people start thinking about it differently or questioning things, that's going to hurt your investment? The fact that they continuously just cry about whatever I'm talking about is a telltale sign, right? It's letting you know that they're here to do a job. And for those that, I didn't want to do this, but for those that wonder what I'm talking about, we'll do a quick sidebar real quick into Team Jorge. Team Jorge is the name given to an, just one singular, outfit of Israeli contractors specialized in the use of malign cyber activities, including hacking, sabotage, and bot farm social media disinformation campaigns to manipulate the outcomes of presidential elections. So this is just one Israeli black ops organization, of which they have hundreds, if not thousands, all doing the same thing. The group was exposed in February of 2023 after an award-winning undercover operation by journalists from, it says Israel and France, but then when you go down lower, it says, well, it's France, Germany, Indonesia, Israel, Kenya, Spain, Tanzania, and the United States. The organization has been active since at least 2015, just before Trump lost the election by 2.7 million votes, and the AIPAC swamp put him in anyway. Remember that? I'm going to drain that swamp. I'm going to lower gas and food prices. I'm going to end all the wars within 24 hours. I'm going to release the Epstein files. I'm going to do this. Remember all the promises Trump loves to give and then never fulfills them? Well, remember when he said he was going to drain the swamp? And then he lost by 2.7 million votes? And that swamp put him in office anyway? Remember that? Since 2015, and boasts of having manipulated 33, gotta love that 33, presidential elections worldwide. Many of them are in Africa, meaning 4 or more, and in 27 cases with successful results. So 82% of the time, this one Israeli black ops organization tries to interfere and manipulate an election, they've been successful. Their activities were revealed following a 2022 sting operation in Tel Aviv carried out by 3 undercover journalists who posed as prospective clients and filmed their interactions with Tal, T-A-L, Hanan, H-A-N-A-N, the group's leader and former Israeli Special Forces operative, in which he explained how it all worked. He said, Team Jorge has been active since has existed for more than 2 decades and has been engaged in propaganda and disinformation activities in more than 30 countries. Their intelligence services have been available to to government intelligence agencies, political campaigns, and private companies that wish to covertly manipulate public opinion. One of the organization's primary tools is a software package called Advanced Impact Media Solutions, or AIMS. Attention. The software automates centralized control of thousands of fake social media profiles. Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, all that. And if you actually read the articles, they say it's not necessary. Bots isn't accurate. It's more like their avatars. It's this really advanced technology that nobody had ever seen before. And that they're capable of creating 30,000 bots at a time. 30,000 bot profiles at one time. So when you have somebody that seemingly comes out of nowhere, that blows up from the internet, and it's, yesterday they were unknown, today they were big shit. Well, imagine if, multiple Israeli black ops organizations were creating 30,000 bots at a time to bolster someone, to like, share, and sub to their shit. Do you know how quickly that person would achieve success? Oh, look, we got people that want to get blocked, so I will give in to you. Hey, how you doing? You fly the pedo flag, you get blocked. All you with a couple years here, but no subscribers. Yep. 5 years ago, Tristan, 5 years ago, no subscribers. I don't mind getting rid of you. Anybody wants to fly the pedo flag, I will be happy to remove you. Are all these beds so small in size that no adult women or man would be interested in them? I think there is. That's a part of it. I think like people that want virgins, it's just because you don't want to be compared to anybody else. The idea that your woman was making all sorts of squealing noises for somebody else and you can't do it like that. Yeah, I'm sure that fucks with some people. But I think more than anything, it has to do with like who you are. Like it's like a sexual preference. Gay, straight, pedo. I think they're in that same sort of category, where you have to be programmed to find children attractive. Like there's literally no way. If I was on a plane and it crashed, the world ended. And when it landed, me and a group of high school or middle school cheerleaders were the only ones left on Earth. And it was up to us to repopulate. I wouldn't be able to do it. I couldn't find, little 12, 13, 14-year-old girls attractive. They're just not attractive. You can see how they're going to be attractive, but they look like kids. There is no, it's just not a thing. One of the best examples of it is The Godfather, right? The Godfather, the movie. Something that absolutely needs to be canceled, right? And I saw this exact system in action during his live stream, and the comments don't contain any arguments, just pure insults and Israeli flags. Well, who else could it be? Who else could it be other than a Team Jorge? Or Act IL, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But The Godfather, there's the whole section where Michael Corleone goes to Italy is completely unnecessary. It doesn't add to the movie. It doesn't make the movie better. It's this weird little sidebar that really never gets brought up again. Because he had hit the police. Remember, he had hit the cop and he had to disappear.
No, but why did they do the whole long thing? They could have just...
To set up for her so they could fucking show the little girl naked. What else could it be? Because even if you did the entire Italy thing and you left out the sex scene, like the sex scene literally brings nothing to the movie. It doesn't, but I mean, it has a little touch, but the whole story is this 30-year-old man playing a 26, 27-year-old character falling for what is said to be a 15, 16-year-old girl being played by a 14-year-old. Like, this shit is it's just wrong to begin with. Like, who the fuck thought that was a good idea? Who the fuck thought this movie needs this? And then there's the scene where after they get married, and like, you just think about, like, she acts like a little girl. You know? They have to walk with the family, and at one point he's having a conversation with the men because the men's and the females are separated, and he looks over at her and she touches the necklace that he gave her. You know, it's so fucking weird. It's so fucking weird. And then they do the sex scene where I'd completely forgotten about it, right? I hadn't watched the movie in years, and this was years ago. And so I'm watching it with my kids. I'm like, you guys got to check this out. This movie has all kinds of life lessons. Don't fuck with the mob, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's what my whole purpose in showing them was. And I had completely forgotten about this scene. And so they get married, and then it flips to they're in their little honeymoon suite. And from the notes on the movie, that was actually the first take. All of that emotion that you see, that fear in her eyes, is real. Because she didn't know she was doing it. She had been separated from her mom. They did all this weird shit to facilitate this thing. And she was either 14 or 15, Simonetta. Like, she started at 14 filming, and then maybe had the 15th birthday or something along those lines. But you can see it in what's his name? Michael Corleone, Al Pacino. You can see it in Pacino's face, like he is into it. And she takes off her shirt, and her little 14-year-old boobies are sitting there, and even my kids were like, ew, what's wrong with her boobs? Because she's a fucking pubescent girl, like, it's gross. Not they're gross. Sure, they're beautiful and all that, and they're blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that they're gross as people. I'm saying the idea of a girl whose body isn't even fully developed being in a sex scene is just fucking weird. You know, what's that one? Who's that one broad that was in the porn movies? Fuck. She became an actress over time, too. Like, she somehow... Tracy Lords? Yeah, Tracy Lords. The idea that this girl somehow convinced people that she was legal, it is just a joke. Look at her body. Look at her face beneath the makeup. You know, the nipples are a real big giveaway. Chicks' nipples change. And when they're little girls, it's just, I mean, again, it's gross to me. I don't want them to feel like I'm saying that they're gross as people, but just like I think other dudes' dicks are gross, you know, I don't think anything's wrong with being gay. I think there's something tremendously wrong with me being gay. But you being gay, I couldn't care less. It's the same kind of gross where, like, what the fuck? Like, it's not, for me, no. And so you see this scene in this movie that literally has no bearing on the movie whatsoever. It's completely unnecessary. And you have to ask whose idea was it? And, you know, you can see, like, Pacino is just, he's barely holding back, and then once she takes off her shirt and sort of presents herself, he, like, rushes at her like he's like an animal. And then the scene fades. Well, how much do you think, you know, how far do you think that scene went after that? How much do you think ended up on the cutting room floor? How much do you think they took advantage of that little girl? And then it's out there. It's like it's this award-winning film. Why hasn't it been canceled yet? It's literally child exploitation materials. There is literally a 14 or 15-year-old girl's fucking chest is being shown to everybody that watches it. It's so fucking crazy. And of course, I guarantee everybody that thinks I'm nuts is probably a Trump supporter. I think most of us are like, holy shit, that is fucked up. I didn't think about that. I knew I always had a weird feeling about that scene and blah, 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 but you never really put two and two together because you're not supposed to. In a certain country in the Middle East, no one is allowed to question, that is to blame. We should have listened to the Austrian painter. Yeah. Oh, you can say it here. It's 100% the Jays. It's 100% Israel. And yeah, no, that's what my, like, I want to stop the pedophilia. I want to stop the genocide. I want to know the real shape of the earth. I want to stop the pokes. I want to change lots of things. And the only way we can do any of it is by doing all of it. But all those things are tentacles of the monster. And I'm not going to sit here and keep talking about the tentacles. I want to cut off the head of the monster. And the head of the monster is clearly chosen. The people who tell you they're chosen. And then you go, okay. Most of you are willing Christians. Somebody didn't force you to be a Christian. You're willingly a Christian, knowing that, you're supposed to be. Knowing that in your own belief structure, you are the second class. You are the big loser in all of it. You're not one of the chosen. Uh-oh. Somebody's here. Let's see. And so when you understand that you're not even top in your own belief structure, you're an absolute piece of shit. What's up, man? How can you just accept that as the reality and be okay with all of it? Like, it's just what you're just like, yep, that's how it is. Uh-oh. I think we're getting in trouble. Oh. City's putting a notice on the neighbor's door. That sucks. Man, you parked in front of my house. You scared me. Giving trolls a dose of some reality this morning. That's what it's for. So, I just read you what Team Jorge is, and I'm going to read you something else real quick. Act.il. So act.il is one of these locked pages, so nobody can suggest edits to it. I know a lot of you think anybody can just edit Wikipedia. No, you can't. If you could, then you could destroy Wikipedia, or at least put a huge dent in it. Because all you'd have to do is click edit, click select all, click delete, click save, and then go to the next page and just keep doing it. You'd fuck Wikipedia all up. So you're allowed to suggest edits on certain pages, right? But that just goes to, remember how I played you the video where Israel taught the editors of Wikipedia how to edit things so that it was balanced and Zionist in nature? Remember that? Remember that part? Well, we're reading what they want us to know, and those, when you suggest an edit, it's sent to the editors who have been taught how to edit it so that it has the balanced and Zionist perspective. And if your edit doesn't fit that, then they remove it. It's really simple. But this is a page that can't even be edited, interestingly. So this page says act.il was a social networking service used by supporters of Israel to oppose online, quote, anti-Israel content, such as the BDS movement, boycotts, divestments, and sanctions. Its activities were referred to as an, quote, online propaganda campaign and a, quote, virtual situation room for pro-Israel experts. Pay attention, pay attention. Act.il directed its users to, quote, missions, to like, comment on, and share pro-Israel material on social media. It also asked users to flag, report, and respond to criticisms of Israel. Users might be guided on how to respond, which might entail writing a reply using the provided talking points, right? Like the dumb shit that people say, schizophrenic, or let's see if we can't find some other nonsense bullshit. Wow, the birds thing. Like, there's just lots of little comments that you'll see that are made seemingly randomly by random profiles, and it's the same shit. It's spelled the same. It's they get the same yours wrong because English isn't their first language to begin with. But the idea of provided talking points, and I'll point those out as we go on when they use them. Or sharing or upvoting an allied comment. The app also provided users with ready-made memes promoting Israel's perspective for them to share. Now, again, pay attention. By completing missions, users earned points, unlocked badges, and had their scores displayed on leaderboards. So they basically made trolling people like me into a video game where they get real life points for it, right? Look, you're Y-O-U-R on drugs. Y-O-U-R schizo. See what I mean? Same sort of talking points, same stupidity throughout. It's just, it's like a signature, right? And you have to ask yourself again, if my feed is the one where we openly say we need to kill pedophiles and we need to eliminate the J control scheme keeping us all goyim slaves while committing genocide, and you have an issue with that, of which you can't tell us what your issue is. So, the only thing we have to do is assume. Well, I assume if you come at me and I'm saying those things, it's because you believe in those things and you're mad at somebody who's trying to call you out. Like, I can't make sense of it otherwise. Even if you say, oh, I'm just here to troll, like that just seems weird to me. Of all the people in the world to troll, not only do you pick the guy that thinks we should kill pedos and stop the genocide and whatnot, you come here every day for hours on end, you know, making my argument for me. Like, it's never like I'm embarrassed by or hurt by or upset by what you say. Every single time I read what you guys say, I'm like, see, only pedos would say this kind of shit. It's so strange how stupid it all is. What about Saturn worship? I think that's a distraction. I think the only reason you know anything about Saturn worship is because they tell you to. Yeah. The water company came and put a thing on Steph's door, but he parked right in front of our house, so I was like, oh shit. The only way you can stop the genocide is if you eliminate the J control scheme that's doing it. We have to acknowledge the fact that this is a psychopathic, pedophilic, supremacist cult, and that they absolutely control the United States, you know, openly through AIPAC and other means, you know, but covertly, like, through a whole bunch of other shit. Like, you know, controlling everything we think. You know? And that's what them acknowledging that they control Wikipedia tells you. Right? They control what everyone thinks as far as... Nice. Oh. They control what everyone thinks is, you know, as far as narratives and all that goes. Like, literally, they control what feeds your arrogance. Your insecure, ignorant arrogance is controlled by them. And you just don't realize it. You know, all of you out there that say you're Christian because of what? And don't just say you're Christian because you have faith in, like, I want to know what the reason you've decided that all of the other cults out there are false and yours is the correct one. I'd love to know how you put that all together. You know, and of course you're never gonna actually answer that. Oh look, Heather came back just so she could say, you are speaking to yourself. What the fuck does that even mean?
Is that why you're answering him?
She just said, is that why you're answering him? It's the fucking truth. Like, how stupid that's how desperately stupid you have to be. That insecure, ignorant arrogance. It just, it controls everything you do. And you think that you're in control. You think that you're the one who made all these decisions and nobody controls me. I know what I think, and blah, but you don't know why you think any of the things you think. Hey man, submarines, you know? Like, it's such a strange thing. And of course, at the same time, once we really start delving into something, there's always going to be that profile, that troll that tries to bring it back to submarines. And like, you can see what's happening. You know, it's all really obvious. This feed's been going for an hour. So the idea that the title is clearly the title of the show, and then it says part something else other than the title. Today it was Anno Domini. How many of the people do you think even know what Anno Domini means? Before you came here, how many of you knew that was what AD stood for instead of after death, like Heather's dumbass? And see, so Heather's one of these dumbasses who says something like, Jesus was born in the year 0000. First of all, he was born in 000. and then 1 BC is before Christ, and you think 1 AD is after Christ. So when did Jesus exist? Dude, you're driving all over people's lawns, man. All right, so let's get back to it. This dating system, well, okay, the calendar era takes it. We're talking about Anno Domini. The calendar era takes as its epoch. It's not epic, it's epoch. I gotta know how to say that. What's it say?
Epic.
I guess it is epic. Just not the epic EPIC epic. Gotta love how confusing English is. I mean, you know it's that way on purpose. Because if it's confusing, then it's harder to pull apart and understand. The calendar year as its epic, the traditionally reckoned year of the conception or birth of Jesus. Years AD are counted forward since that epic, and BC are counted backwards from that epic. Right. Which should tell you like how stupid did the creators of this whole thing have to be that they didn't think like we need to account for this guy's life. What are we doing here? And according to scholars, and it'll come up later, but they say that Jesus was probably more likely born around -5 BC. But then that would still make him 5. Like, but this is how the thing that you believe in is presented to you. That's really weird, don't you think? You know, don't you think the thing that you use as like a fundamental guide to who you are, the ultimate gang that you belong to at the end of the day, you know, even though something that never gets talked about is the Christian on Christian crime that happens every day here in the United States. If the same crime is done to a Jew, it's considered a hate crime. But Christian on Christian crime is most crime, right? We just don't talk about it. And a special fairy tale book. Yeah, but they can't even, like, it's the strangest part is to think like how ignorant they are about their own thing. They don't know it. They don't even know what their Bible says. They don't know the history of their Bible. They don't know, you know. They can't have a civil conversation about it without getting really upset, which isn't what you do when you have the truth about something. Like maybe, hey, the truth is there's a bomb in the house and it's going to go off in 2 minutes. We got to get out of here. Like if that was the case, you would be, you know, rightfully upset and mad. Come on. But otherwise, like, there's no reason to be upset. Especially if I'm wrong. You should be, like, basking in the glory of the truth and that, I'm making this guy look stupid because I'm talking about a bunch of shit he can't debunk, he can't say anything about. Some of them were defending the flood a few days ago. Well, I think there could have been a flood. I think there was a mud flood for sure. The evidence seems to support a mud flood. Oh, look, the fucking goofy ass Rosenthal is here again. I guess it's his turn to make his people look stupid. Because that's literally all he ever does is make his people look really stupid. But see, this is what I mean. Like, what's up, Matt? Look at what we're experiencing here. I don't even have to work hard to make your shit look stupid. The calendar era takes as its epoch the traditionally reckoned year of the conception or birth of Jesus. Years AD are counted forward since that epoch, and years BC are counted backwards from that epoch. So when did Jesus exist? Are we saying there's like a 30-something year period in between BC and AD that just isn't accounted for? I'm surprised they haven't gone with that. There is no year zero in this scheme. Thus, the year 1 AD immediately follows the year 1 BC, which just doesn't make any sense. And so, again, most of you traditionally think that, like, like somebody must have been putting notches in a wall or something, and or like Brett Kavanaugh was there and he had his calendars and all of the information is based off of the calendars. From videos I've seen on the flood, it seems to be more regional flooding and less of a worldwide event. But you know what? Maybe a boat could exist that carries all the species on this planet twice. Yeah, no, it's definitely, it just depends on how you look at things, right? If you look at it from of the given narratives, there's a lot more questions that remain unanswered. Whereas if you look at it from a third option, that this is all just a giant reality TV set, and all part of a giant TV show that we don't know we're in. And all of, like if you look at where we are as a society, how many years do you think it's going to be before we have a dome structure that the creatures inside don't know they live in, and we film that so we can learn about how our whole society evolved? We can watch it, whatever the reason is. How far away do you think we are from invisible tech? In some circles, it already exists. And the reality is, when it comes to this conversation, which is why I don't have it very often, they told us in 1989, they were like, hey, guess what? We have these really cool planes called Stealth. We had these, it was all over the news. It was like it was a celebrity, the Stealth tech. Dodge even put out a car called the Stealth. In 1989, I'm 11 years old, like, it was all the rage. Like, kids who draw their little war scenes, all of a sudden they all had stealth fighters in them. And the funny thing is, all those people for years who were claiming they saw some sort of UFO, this wing-shaped object in the sky, and they were called crazy, and they were ridiculed, and they were, ostracized from their communities, and all these crazy things that would happen to people because of it. They're all validated. Now you go, oh yeah, that wing-shaped thing you saw, well, that was actually a thing that we had. As society progresses, more of it makes more sense. More shit, you can apply it backwards. Like how we know about drone tech now. How anybody can go spend a couple $100 and get a drone that can do magnificent things. How, you know, different communities nowadays have drone shows along with their fireworks displays in the summertime. I've gone and seen a couple of drone shows now, and they're kind of silly. Oh look, they made another shape. Oh look, they made another shape. I mean, it's fascinating to think about, like, nobody's piloting those. It's all programmed into a system. Like it's very fucking fascinating. It's just a little boring, but it's fascinating. But now that we know what drones are, and we've seen the capability of these things that can move all over the place, well, geez, that sure makes a lot of the UFOs that have been seen or reported make a lot more sense. This is just government tech. This is just tech that they finally let us have. And I brought up stealth because, you know, again, they let us know about stealth in '89, but stealth existed since at least the 40s and maybe even the 30s. So we're at least 50 years behind. Like the average Goyim, the average population is at least 50 years behind what we're capable of. And it's probably more like 150 years behind. But like, to arrogantly think that we're not just going to continue to evolve and continue to make things better and different, and look at what we can do with a TV screen nowadays. I mean, I grew up in the '80s. We still had a black and white TV as for one of our TVs. It's my TV. My TV was a black and white TV. You know? Had to turn the knobs and all that shit. To think, like, not only what they're capable of doing with TVs, where they make it like better than looking out of a window. Like it's a better image than you can see, really. Like it's weird to say it, but it like, they can do incredible things with televisions now, and it's not even crazy expensive. Like that in itself is just huge. You know, this is a huge advancement in our society. And to think, like, what are they going to be capable of doing in another 50 years? Do you think they'll be able to make a big giant TV screen that can't be broken? At least, like, can't be broken by the ants inside? They have curved TV screens now that look like you're looking out a window. Do you think they're going to have shrinking technology? Do you think they're going to have, you know, do you think 3D printers combined with fractal mathematics and, you know, the fullest extent of our computing power, do you think they're not going to be able to create an environment, a world that people think is real? I mean, you know, I remember playing Skyrim and being blown away by how realistic it looked, especially the sky. And if you look at the sky that we have, it's very similar in that, you know, you'd be surprised how many right angles exist in the clouds, how many straight lines and right angles there actually are. And when you know about, like, the whole zeros and ones digital presentation, they can't actually make curved lines. They have to make it, they can shade it so it looks like it's curved. But, like, if you ever look at, like, the polygons of the game, beneath all the shading and stuff, it's always blocks. because that's what they have to use, and then they mask the blockiness with clever, shading and whatnot. But just pause your game and look. There's no round. It's all, if it looks round, it's like vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. It's digital. Our sky looks a lot like that. But again, these are all, this part of the conversation is such a waste of time to me. Me talking about what I think a possibility is, and I really do think it's actually very likely. I think it's actually very likely when the whole idea of the chosen, the whole idea of like who chooses them, and when you look at our society being like we absolutely have a society that has the means, the technology, and the resources for everyone to live a good, happy, healthy, safe life without everyone having to work or anyone having to work. Without anyone going hungry, we have all that tech. We could easily do that. We just don't. And we don't because that would be really boring. Even SimCity has that feature to where, you can build your city up as much as you want, but the disasters will come through and fuck it up. Because what's entertainment? The backbone of entertainment is conflict. I guarantee there's not a thing any of you watch that doesn't have conflict at its as its backbone. Conflict is the conflict is everything. Conflict is everything. Whether it's Sesame Street and does the round peg fit into the square hole, or it's Game of Thrones, where it's all conflict based. Everything we are entertained by is conflict based. Will my sports team beat your sports team? Will this piece of shit house be renovated in time for the reveal, and will they like it? This is all conflict. Nobody wants to watch the show where everybody just works together to make things better. I mean, there are shows kind of like that, but there's always that element of will we finish on time, or, will this or will that. But if this was all, if our TV show was all just, us working together and making things better, I think clearly they've had that happen before. If you look at the history of the world, if you look at what we're actually presented as our history, it definitely doesn't line up with what exists. And so, what exists is a whole bunch of shit that can't be explained. And the only way they attempt to explain it is if you ask questions. They call you a conspiracy theorist. When you ask how the pyramids were built, the answer is, and be okay with it. Just be okay with it. How did they build all those churches and castles? How did they build Mont Saint Michel? How'd they build that shit? They just did. How'd they build Venice? Oh, they're just really good. They're just really good. And so here I've gotten way off point here, and we've gone into the philosophical side of things. And to me, what I'm reading you as far as our history goes is just some lazy chat GPT bullshit. That the originators of these narratives didn't think we were going to get this far. They didn't think, even if they gave us this tech, they didn't think, the dumb goyim would ask these questions and start figuring shit out. I'm sure you are. But the reality is, like, the sad part is I'll bring all this stuff up and what happened? Oh, yeah, that happens. Um, it's just strange to look at this and try to figure this out and realize, like, the narrative you're given is really stupid. And and then when you understand this aspect of things, it puts a whole different spin on everything else. Like, think about what we're talking about here. This is the foundation of, like, this is something you deal with every day of your life. Every day you're like, hey, what's today's date? And you think it's 2025 and all of these things because of this. And yet none of you know what it means. Most of you falsely think it means after death. But when you're presented with the know-it-all history, when they start talking about, especially when it comes to the J stuff, the Maccabee revolt happened in 232 BC. And you apply that knowledge with what we're about to talk about, and you go, well, how do you know that it's accurate? How 232 BC, that's pretty precise, right? How do you know that's true? And when you look at what we're learning about with this whole thing, you realize, like, I mean, I do. I put the human thing, the connection on it. I try to think about it in the terms of context. It's not like they had, at least we're told, it's not like they had an internet. It's not like they had an emailing network. It's not like they had phones. It's not like they had, the libraries and resources they did have, I can't help but ask, like, how did that even exist? Who was mass producing books for the libraries thousands of years ago? And how do like, where's the authentication process and the accuracy check? And like, how did they just go about doing all of that? And so when you look into this and you realize, like, this dating system that we go by today was devised in 525. So nobody was keeping track of those dates, according to the way that we do. But in 525, Dionysius Exiguus came up with this BC AD shit. But it was not widely used until the 9th century. Now, modern scholars believe that the actual date of the birth of Jesus was about 5 BC. So then it's just wrong there. But so I want to point something out, right? I'm going to take a little sidebar here. 0. 0 is a number representing an empty quantity. Adding or subtracting 0 to any other number leaves that number unchanged. Get the hell away from me, B. Jesus Christ. That was crazy. Shit tried landing right on me. I don't know why I was scared about it. Okay, so the history. Ancient Egyptian numerals were of base 10. They used hieroglyphs for the digits and were not positional. One papyrus written around 1770 BC, not 1771, around 1770 BC, and we still have it. A scribe recorded daily incomes and expenditures for the pharaoh's court using the NFR hieroglyph to indicate cases where the amount of a foodstuff received was exactly equal to the amount dispersed. Egyptologist Anne Gardiner suggested that the NFR hieroglyph was being used as a symbol for zero, but again, it wasn't. By the middle of the second millennium BC, Babylonian mathematics had a sophisticated base 60 positional numeral system. The lack of a positional value or zero was indicated by a space between sexagesimal numerals. By sexagesimal numerals? I don't know. In a tablet unearthed at Kish, dating to as early as 700 BC, the scribe who gives Bel Ben Aplu used 3 hooks as a placeholder in the same Babylonian system. By 300 BC, a punctuation system. So, I mean, it's just fucking weird. They talk about these systems. The ancient Greeks had no symbol for zero. The earliest use of zero in the calculation of the Julian calendar occurred before 311 AD. Okay, so that's different. That's not what so I'm learning. At the first entry in the table of epax, as preserved in an Ethiopic document for the years 310 to 369, using Geese, word for none, English translation is zero elsewhere, alongside Geese. So this isn't actually, when division produced zero as a remainder, nihil, meaning nothing, was used. Okay, so we're still not using zero. In most countries, zero was identified before the idea of negative things, i.e. quantities less than zero, was accepted. Like, isn't math supposed to be math? The Sunzi Zujing, of unknown date, but estimated to be dated from the 1st to 5th centuries AD, described how the 4th century BC Chinese counting rod system enabled one to perform positional decimal calculations. So still, we're not talking about zero. This is the problem with not having done homework beforehand. Well, I've read it before, just not on a wiki like this. Like this. All right, let's see. First use of zero. The first use of zero as a concept rather than just a placeholder is attributed to ancient India, specifically around the 5th century CE, so 500 something, right? While earlier civilizations like the Babylonians and Mayans used zero as a placeholder, it was Indian mathematicians like, I'm not going to even, Aryabhata and Brahmagupta, who formalized its use as a number with mathematical properties. Zero as a number. Okay. Early placeholder used the concept of zero as a placeholder, denoting the absence of a value in a positional number system, can be traced back to ancient civilizations like the Babylonians around 300 BCE and the Mayans around the 4th century CE. They used specific symbols to differentiate between magnitudes, similar to how zeros are used today to distinguish between place values, i.e. tenths, hundredths, etc. The crucial leap from placeholder to a number with defined mathematical properties occurred in ancient India. Aryabhata in the 5th century used a symbol for zero as in his astronomical calculations. Brahmagupta in 628 CE formalized the rules for arithmetic operations involving zero, including addition, subtraction, and multiplication. In his work, Brahmasfuta Siddhanta. Brahmasfuta Siddhanta. So just think about that. We're taught all of this shit, right? But even something as simple as Dionysus in 525 deciding that it's 525 when he didn't have zero to work with. That's why zero isn't used, why there isn't a year zero accounted for with the BC AD bullshit. Do you guys get that? Like, I know I'm not some genius and I'm not some mathematician and I'm not, I'm stupid and I'm wrong and blah, blah, blah. I'm doing the devil's work. But just think about what you're being told here. Oh, wait, shit. Ah, shit. I wanted to read where it said. Oh, shit. It didn't make it to the Indo-Arabic numeral system, including the concept of zero, was transmitted to the Islamic world and then to Europe through translations of Indian mathematical text. Fibonacci's book, Liber Abaci, in 1212 is credited with introducing the modern zero to Europe. Do you get this? So, this Dionysus guy, he calculated this back when, 700 years before Europe even knew about the concept of zero. Before zero was a thing within the math structure that was used in Europe at the time. Don't you think that's weird? Like, how did they do all the architecture and shit that we're supposed to believe the ancient world was capable of without a concept of zero to work with? I've done construction in my life, and I know that zero is an important element of construction. Like, you have to find zero before you can even start. It has to be flat. It has to be, zero. I'm gonna reset because they've dropped us down. So hopefully you come back and join us. Pedophiles, kill yourself.